Now, energy and specifically natural gas resource development is going to be a central issue, of course, we've mentioned several times, in the New Brunswick general election. But it's energy development generally is also going to be a central issue in the next federal election. Indeed, one of the reasons we're so keen to watch the New Brunswick election so closely is to see how the politics of energy development are playing out. And maybe we'll see something similar countrywide in a year's time. Our next guest is right in the thick of energy and politics. It's former Harper Cabinet Minister Stockwell Day, who today joins a new group called the Pacific Future Energy Corporation, PFEC, as a director and a senior advisor. He's in our Vancouver studio. Stock, great to have you on the program. Just a little bit about you. I want to get sort of the big picture view of politics and energy in Canada. Sure. But PFEC, the idea is essentially to refine Alberta bitumen somewhere on a Pacific port coast.
That's exactly right, David. This project will be the greenest refinery in the world, and we're promoting it as a near zero emissions project. As technology moves along, it may even get to be a net zero project, but certainly with the technology that we will have in place, it's near zero, and it addresses concerns about bitumen being put on tankers. It addresses the importance of making sure you're dealing properly and appropriately with Indigenous peoples. And also the thing that's irritating to most of us as Canadians, refinery jobs being created in the US or elsewhere when we believe there's an economic case for them to be made right here in Canada.
It seems to me that energy politics has been at the center of so many of our election discussions in the last year and a half. And we probably both agree it's going to be at the center of the 2015 federal election. You had a front row seat for BC, where LNG was talked about. Kinder Morgan perhaps was the whole issue that over which Adrian Dix lost that campaign. Give me your sense, in all the years you've been in politics, can you ever recall where energy has been such a hot topic for an electorate and politicians?
Probably not since the National Energy Program years ago in Alberta. It's just foremost on everybody's mind, David. I was going to say especially here in British Columbia, but not just in British Columbia, it's across the country. And people want the assurance. You know, we did a lot of polling before the provincial election out here in BC last time. And if people can be assured that risks are mitigated, that things are being done in a responsible way, and the public generally wants to be assured that communities, and that includes Aboriginal communities, are being appropriately taken into the process, if you can make and give that assurance, then a majority of people will wind up supporting and giving what we call that social license. But if you can't do that, then projects face a high degree of risk.
Well, and let's talk about that social license. We saw Justin Trudeau at his meetings in Edmonton this week with the Liberal caucus talk about the importance of building social license, accusing the Harper government of failing to do that. Right now on the other coast in the country, David Alward in New Brunswick, he is talking about fracking as a way for New Brunswick to regenerate its own economy. And again, he's going to have to sell that program and create, quote, a social license. Got some tips on politicians who want to do that? I'm sure it's not an easy thing, and it's going to vary from different parts of the country.
Well, I was going to say, and it might sound jaded, but when all else fails, tell the truth. And the truth is you can make a scientific, environmentally sound case when it comes to issues like fracking. But if you're not going to make the case, you could lose the battle for this so-called social license and public approval. For instance, the years I spent in Alberta, because fracking, took place and continues to all the time, thousands and tens of thousands of wells, it just wasn't an issue. But when it occurs in areas where people are not familiar with the process, then you're going to hear voices on the other side of the issue. And you simply have to make the case and make it scientifically and use the existing experience that's out there. If you don't, people are rightfully concerned, have environmental concerns, and they will be swayed in the other direction.
Let me ask you as well, because you've probably been around cabinet tables in Ottawa and elsewhere in Alberta, certainly, where there comes a point where we've done all the environmental assessments, we've done the risk assessments, somebody, a politician, has got to say, it's time to go. Or in some cases, it's time to stop, I suppose. At what point does a politician then have to say, we've had enough chatting, we've gone through all this stuff, and we've just got to get on with some work? Is there situations where politicians have to bite the bullet in that sense?
I think you have to. Again, when you can make that case and you feel confident about it in your own heart, and as I tell people, and certainly with this team that's involved in the Pacific Future Energy proposal, You know, we have kids, we have grandkids, and we all want a pristine environment maintained. We want fresh air, we want fresh water for our children and for generations to come. We also want them to be economically prosperous. So you simply have to make the case, and that's why whether you're talking about a zero-emission refinery project, whether you're talking about reducing the threat of bitumen, whether you're talking, as they are in the Atlantic provinces, about looking at their future prosperity, it has to go hand in hand with these other issues. And elected people, if they've got the facts and they know that what they're saying is right, they have to stand up and say those things and demand that their adversaries come forward with scientific data, not just fear-based information. It has to be scientifically and environmentally sound. You do that, you'll make the case with the majority of people. You're never going to win everybody over. Some people feel there should be no development at all when it comes to natural resources. But David, you know that I, for one, and many others, we get irritated at the fact that Canadian oil gets shipped to refineries in the U.S., which are so profitable right now on Canadian oil that this fall they're actually putting off some of their maintenance schedules because they don't want to lose any of the significant margins they're enjoying in the U.S. on Canadian product. And some of us are just saying, you know what? It's time that Canadians benefited economically as well as protecting the environment at the same time.
Last quick question. The Energy East pipeline, the idea of taking Alberta bitumen to refineries, perhaps in New Brunswick. You know, there's all the politicians there like this idea, and refining it there. Would that compete with PFEX project, complement project, if that Alberta oil was going to be refined on the East Coast instead of the West?
We don't think it will. We think it'll be complementary, David. The demand that is ever on the increase in Asia, because people, as you know, by the hundreds of millions are moving out of poverty into middle-class status. And the demand for product is huge in Asia. That's the economic benefit of having a refinery like this on the West Coast. And also the advantage and the assurance sort of in your own heart that you're shipping product that's already refined. So we don't see that as a competitive reality. Matter of fact, we're glad if there are jobs also created in refineries in Eastern Canada. This is something that can benefit all Canadians taking this approach.
Stockwell Day joining us from Vancouver today. Stock, thanks so much.
Thanks for your interest, David.